Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Get Into Flow, the mindset shifting podcast. And I am joined by Randi Halaway, a self-love and business coach. Welcome, Randi.
Oh, welcome. Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here to talk about something so important, which is self-love, that we often forget. We're giving love to everyone else, or we're expecting love from everyone else, but what about ourselves? But before we get into it, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and share your story with our listeners and viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be here. Like you said, my name is Randi, and I've been on, I kind of started out as an entrepreneur about the age of 6 when I was like begging my dad to have my lemonade stand and my wrapping paper business and was playing office with my friends where I was the boss. So that was kind of like a early thing for me. And then went on to become a hairstylist right out of high school. I did hair for 17 years. I actually owned a salon in downtown San Diego for 5.5. So that was a big part of my career and my life. And then at some point, I started kind of asking myself, what am I the most passionate about? I had created all these coaching programs for my employees. I was like kind of helping my clients over the years behind the chair. And I realized that I was really the most passionate about helping women really remember who they truly were and learn how to have a better relationship with themselves. Because what I realized from my journey is that the more that I was connected to my true self and loved myself, everything else in my outer world seemed to become better. So at that point, I thought, okay, I think it's time to exit the salon industry, which was hard because I was very kind of hooked into like being a hairstylist and being a salon owner. And this was a big part of my identity, but I knew it was time. My heart was pulling me to move forward. So I decided to sell my salon in 2017. I actually had a business coach at the time. It was kind of an interesting story. She told me that I probably wasn't going to sell it. I probably wasn't going to make any money. The industry just wasn't in a good place. And I was like, okay, thanks for your feedback. And within like 2 months, I manifested 2 young girls who paid really close to asking price. Um, and I exited that industry, which at the time I was kind of nervous. Like, am I going to regret this? Like, am I going to wish I didn't let it go? But that's actually not what happened. I definitely was on a path to where I was meant to be. But what started happening for me more than anything is I started getting more anxious because I wasn't as busy because I was in a transition. And this ended up kind of taking me on a path of really going more inward of like, what parts of me are needing to be busy all the time? What parts of me are still looking outward? As long as I have people needing me and I have success and I have money coming in and I have the relationship, then I'm safe. And so, what also was going on at that time is within 1 year, I got engaged. I sold my business. I got married for the second time. This is in my mid to late 30s. And then I got divorced within a year. So that second marriage lasted 4 months. And this is the opportunity for me that really cracked open my heart. It really kind of forced me to slow down and really look at, okay, you've been doing a lot of work on yourself. You're learning how to love yourself. You're learning how to do all this, but like, what are you still running from? And what I realized is I was still running from the fear of being alone, fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of failure. And I can imagine anyone listening right now might be able to relate to some of those feelings. And sometimes we don't even realize that that's what we're doing. So this was a life-changing opportunity for me. It cracked open my heart. And this is where I started getting really serious about, I understood this work intellectually. I was actually raised by a coach, a trainer, and an author in the personal development world. So I understood it all very intellectually, which is a great place to be. I would call that like mindset work if you've got some good foundation with mindset work. But what I realized is that until you start to integrate and actually learn how to feel your feelings and learn how to release them, you still are kind of going up against some of these blocks and barriers. And so this was my opportunity. I said, okay, I'm going to sit down. I had some money in the bank now. I had some time. I was rebuilding my new business. And I thought, I'm going to journal every day. I'm going to really feel my feelings this time. I'm going to meditate every day. And I started doing that, and something really magical happened. I actually created a system that helped me really process the traumatic experience that I had from my childhood, also from this marriage experience. And I was like, wow, I'm starting to heal and let go and find more peace so much faster than I thought was possible. So I then started to teach that to my clients. And so now what I do is I help people learn how to access their trauma, learn how to access their mind, their ego-based thoughts, their stories, the limitations, that victim mentality, those parts of us that keep us sort of looping around on this hamster wheel to what I call nowheresville. You just keep hitting the same blocks, hitting the same walls, the same guy, the same money thing, the same, whatever it is. Pull out of that, take your power back, actually learn how to get into your body and acknowledge what it is that you're feeling. Which, what I realize is, once you do that and you realize your feelings aren't actually trying to hurt you, they actually don't have any meaning, which is probably one of the most freeing truths that anybody can realize, then you naturally fall into what I call your heart space. This is your intuition, this is your truth, this is your power, this is who you truly are. This is your connection to whatever that is for you, your divine source, all of that. And from there, anything is possible, truly anything that you want in your life. And so this journey has completely transformed and changed my life. And now I've been able to help so many other people do the same, which is, probably the most fulfilling thing that I could have ever asked for in my life. So that's I guess, sort of quick synopsis on my journey and a little bit about who I am.
Thank you for sharing. What a journey. But
Mhm.
what I love is that you were able to use the emotions, the feelings to help you really work through and something that we are so scared of because we don't want to feel all those feelings, right? So, and you broke it down so well. There's the mindset work and intellectually, logically, you know exactly what it is that you need to do, but then we're afraid to feel it. So how could we possibly integrate it? How could we possibly move through it? And then even accessing the trauma, I'm sure if everyone listening, that might give you a little bit of resistance in your body when we say access the trauma, but how do you do that in a safe way? Because I can totally connect the dots and I'm all about the emotion part of this work. But for someone who maybe is listening and like, okay, Randy, I get you, but I don't want to feel my trauma. Like, I don't want to go back there. It was just too much for me. What would you say to them, or how would you encourage them that this is an important part of the work?
Yeah, I think that's really fair and a really great question. So, first, I would say, depending on where you're at, if you want to just get started on this work, I would start with some very simple practices just to start to regulate your nervous system. Because, yeah, we're not going to open up the door and like let in all these like crazy, traumatic experiences in one day. Your system never really lets you access anything you're not really ready for anyway. But if you're listening to this, maybe some of you are like, I don't know if I like what she's saying, or maybe some of you are like, I think there might be value here, or maybe this is one of the blocks. And I would say a couple of things. Just start with learning how to regulate your nervous system in a simple way. Start journaling every morning, do some breathing, do a quick meditation. Just start to access. Maybe put your hands on your heart, take a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your nose. And maybe just say, you know what? It's safe for me to be here in this moment. I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. What we're doing here is we're learning how to reprogram the subconscious mind and the nervous system that it's safe for you to be in your body. Part of why we don't want to look at our trauma is because we've got a lot of meanings attached to it. That was really scary. And I'm not saying it wasn't, but that it means something. It means that it's still happening to me. And part of one of the things I like to say is like, hey, what was happening before is no longer happening. We're safe now.
Mhm.
So this is like these are slow ways just to start to regulate the nervous system because you're not going to really go there until your nervous system feels safe enough to do so. I would say the next thing, if you really are like, okay, I'm ready for change and transformation in my life, like I want more freedom, I want more love, I want more happiness and joy, I would say get a coach, get into a container, get support. There's literally no way that I would have been able to face, access, look at the things that I have in my life because I had a pretty traumatic childhood without support, without mentors, without containers, without being held. Now, I'm the one who had to kind of walk in and look at it, but without those like people holding me, it would have been challenging to do. What's so interesting about this work is that when you have that container, whatever that is for you, whether it's a coach or a therapist or a group program or a membership or a container that you're like, okay, I'm not alone in this. And I
Mhm.
have someone who's like, hey, I've been there. I'm going to kind of walk you through this path, right? So then it gives you this a little bit more confidence to maybe like walk down that path that feels a little dark. What's always interesting is that even though it feels dark, and the reason why it feels dark is because we've got all these meanings, like I don't want to go feel that trauma again. I don't want to go feel that fear again, or whatever it is. But once you face it, almost every single time you come out on the other side and you're like, wow, like I'm freer. it actually wasn't trying to hurt me. It actually didn't have any meaning. Like, I'm actually not a failure. Like, I'm actually am good enough. I'm not actually rejected just because it feels like I am. There's no meaning to these things. And then you're like, whoa, now I'm free. And this is like a new level that people always talk about up leveling. And this is how you do it. Because now you're proving to yourself, you're proving to your nervous system, to your ego, to these aspects of you, like, there's not actually anything to really be afraid of because feelings can't actually hurt you. They can't actually touch you. They're just feelings and they come and they go, and we all have them, whether we like it or not. And when we learn, I was just speaking about this in my membership. I have a monthly membership and we do a call every month. And we were talking about this. And I was like, you want to know the hack to living the life of your dreams? I was like, become best friends with your feelings, full on besties. Because guess what? The feeling of alone is not going anywhere. Feeling of failure is not going anywhere. Rejected, alone, shame, judged. They're just human emotions that for some reason, our society is like, push those down, push those down. Let's run away from it. If we can get everything worked out perfectly in our life, we'll never have to feel that way again. And it's like, for those of us who have been around the sun enough, it's like, wait a second, this strategy isn't working. And that's what was going on for me. And that's why I attracted a partner that, ended up ending so quickly because I needed to wake up. I needed to
Mhm.
see it. I needed to stop running and pushing it down. And when I did that, I was like, oh, I see. When I walk in, I become free. When I feel, I become free. And what I ultimately realized is that when I stop running from fear, when I stop running from my feelings, they stop chasing me. And then I can look at them. And when I look at them, then they go. And then that's when I would start falling into this place of like, wow, I'm powerful. Wow, I've been amazing this whole time. Like, wow, like I have access to infinite possibilities. And now we're flying. That's the
Mhm.
beauty of this work. It's not necessarily comfortable, but the thing is, we grow the most through the uncomfortable. And there's so much freedom on the other side if you're willing to take the journey.
Mhm. How empowering.
So empowering.
Wow. Yes. And emotions are there for information, right? We make it mean so much more than it needs to. Emotions just want to be felt, acknowledged, and then
Exactly.
let them pass, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure of the exact stat, but feelings are meant to be felt for what, a minute and a half, and then they leave your body. But we hold on to them so much and we bring them up to our brain, and then we overthink and we analyze, and then we make it mean something or attach these meanings to it that then requires us to hold on to it for life. And then we're like, oh, but no, I don't want to feel that anymore. So then we push it down and then it gets stuck.
Yep.
And then it just bottles up. And I know because I was also somebody like that who was afraid of feeling her feelings, partly because I was never taught how to feel them in a safe way.
That's really where, right?
Right.
What a different world it would be as if this was being taught in our schools. I mean, that would
Oh my God.
change the planet. But yeah, we
Oh
weren't meant
yeah.
to have success for this.
No. So I'm happy that there are people like you, Randy, who are teaching, who are sharing this important information to help us navigate those feelings and to just view them with a different lens and to say that, like, okay, what is this trying to teach me? And I love become best friends with your emotions because they're there to guide you. They're there to help you. They don't need to be scary. They just want to be felt. It's like the little friend on the side who's like, look at me, look at me. And then you look at them and you're like, okay. And then they could pass.
Exactly it. That's what's so funny about it is we spend so much time resisting and running and avoiding, and then we wonder why we're exhausted.
Hmm.
That's why you're exhausted because you're resisting your feelings. And we do that because we think, oh, if I feel this, then I'm going to feel that means that's who I am. So what happens is the mind is hardwired to protect us. So a feeling comes up of like, let's call it rejected or failure. I know those are common. Those are
Hmm.
coming up whether we like it or not. The mind comes in and its job is to protect you because it's under the impression that those feelings are bad. They're going to hurt you. So like imagine it like the feeling comes up and an ego comes in and like attaches a lasso to this feeling. Like if I feel like a failure, that means I am a failure. If I feel rejected, that means I am rejected. And from a logical standpoint, if you're believing that you're rejected, if you're believing you're a failure, if you're believing you're alone, if you're believing you're scared and you're at risk and all of that, then yeah, your system's going to go into fight or flight. It's going to shut down and it's going to tighten up. The issue here, not that this is wrong, because this is a human thing, is that if you're wondering why you're not manifesting the things that you want or creating the things that you want, or you're not happy with your results, it's because there's a barrier now that's blocking it. And so when you recognize that the mind is at play, but what the stories it's telling you about your feelings or about who you are not true, and that the feelings, to your point, like they don't really care about your outward results. They don't care how big your ring is or your house is or how hot your partner is or how many likes you get on Instagram or what your waist size is. They don't care. Your mind's like, oh my God, get it all figured out, get it perfect, and then you'll
Yeah.
never feel rejected again. The jig is up. That is not how this works. This is planet Earth. Feelings are there. So when you recognize there's no meaning to the feeling, and to your point, they just want to be heard and seen by you. That's it. They don't care. So slowing down and looking at it, it's like, oh my gosh, feeling of failure. Like, I hear you. I see you. I feel you. I want you to know that I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. And it's like, oh, thank God she finally started looking at me.
Yeah.
And now you're back in your power. And again, when you're in your power, this is when you remember that you're already safe, you're already loved, you're already
Mhm.
enough, you're already whole. There's nowhere to go. You've already arrived. You have access to everything you need within inside of yourself. And again, now you're free inwardly to feel at peace, but also free to actually enjoy the beauty of planet Earth, to actually
Mhm.
create the things that you really want. Because now, not only can you see what you really want, you're open and receptive so it can show up, but you also feel good enough so you can receive and sustain it. And that's the life-changing piece.
Mhm. Well said. There are two themes that I hear come up that came through your personal story and also everything that you're saying here. There's the slowing down portion and
Mhm.
then freedom. So let's first talk about slowing down because I know that it's hard for us to slow down. We're in the hustle culture, and I'm happy that that is on its way out in terms of like glorifying this hustle culture. But slowing down is definitely an important part of this work. As you just mentioned, until we slow down, then we're able to really kind of sit with our feelings and acknowledge them and see them and then be able to move forward. So can you speak a little bit more around, first of all, why it's so hard to slow down, and then how can we start to slow down?
Yeah, so in order to slow down, you would have to be present, which means you'd have to be like fully in your body. And what I mean by that is like you're fully in, you're grounded, you're rooted, you're present. Whereas usually when the ego is at play, you're living from your head up. You're a little bit more out in the ethers. To give an example, these are the moments when you're like, God, I just got home from work, but how did I even get here? I don't even remember what road did I take? Or wow, I just got into a thing with that person, but like, why was I even upset? I don't even remember what I was upset with him about because you're not present. That's why you're not in your body. So that's just an example of that.
Mhm.
Part of why the ego keeps us out of our body and not present is because, again, it's under the impression that if you're in your body and you're present, well, to be in your body and to be present, you have to feel. And the ego's like, no, 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 no. We don't feel. So it keeps you out, keeps you distracted. You don't understand, Randy. I got things to do. Look at my list. I got kids, I got a husband, I got a job, I got to-dos, I got people, everyone needs me. I gotta go, and then or I gotta hustle. I gotta have 5 side hustles and I gotta have a corporate job and I gotta stay busy, right? And this was kind of what I spoke about a little when I said when I sold my salon, I started kind of having some anxiety because I was like, hello, it's very quiet here. What's going on? I didn't feel right. I was going to Target like twice a day. I was like trying to do projects around the house and I'm like, what do I do with my limbs? Like it's uncomfortable because I'm not used to being still.
Mhm.
Reason why is because my system's like, no, we don't do still, we don't sit down, we don't feel.
Mhm.
Because I might feel uncomfortable if I was to slow down. So that's part of why we don't do it.
Mhm.
The caveat and the catch here is that everything you're looking for outwardly already exists within you inwardly. So until you learn how to slow down and actually get into your body, um, you don't get to experience the things that you truly want. And so I always say, like, the things that you want, happiness, joy, love, whatever that is, it can literally only exist truly in the present moment. Because that's all we're promised anyway.
Mhm.
The past is over, the future is not here yet. We only have this moment. That's it. And so the power of being present, I know this is a big topic. There's a lot of people who have written about this. Like Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of being present and all these different things. It's like if you had one goal that to really get you to your next level, it would be this. When you can master being present, and you're human, we're human, right? So we're gonna check out, we're gonna have those moments. It's not about being perfect, but the more present you are, the more connected you are to your true self. All the answers you're looking for, the guidance that is he or isn't she, or is she, or I don't know, and left or right, it all exists inside. The question is, are you willing to slow down enough to hear the guidance? So That's why we don't do it as humans. And this is why it would be probably the most beneficial thing. Because again, everything that's going on inside here is a reflection of outside. So a lot of people are like, okay, no, I'm going to do, and I do high level strategy. I work very high level with female entrepreneurs. I help them with their purpose, with their strategy of building their business, growing their business, like expanding their business, all those types of things. But I do this deeper work first. And the reason why is because I know we can do a lot of strategy. We can have it all figured out outwardly. But until you're right here and you know you're worthy of it, you know you can be present and even receive it, it's not going to work. It's not going to work in the way that you want. It's going to continue to be chaotic on that hamster wheel, right? So that's why, I mean, this to me, there is not one thing more important than this work because again, it's all a reflection. If we make
Mhm.
the inside a priority, learning how to slow down, connect here, this is where all your power is. Every other part of your life becomes easier. And that's where the magic starts to happen. Did that answer your
Mhm.
question?
Yes, thank you. Yes. And it brought up another question before we get to the freedom portion, the outward versus inward, because there's definitely a lot to be said about that, that we live outward facing, we seek that external validation, we look for answers outside. And I love that you say, because I believe this as well, all of your answers are in you already. We just need to tune in and listen, right? That inner voice that we've maybe disconnected from because, again, we don't want to feel our feelings. So all of the feelings are bottled up, which then inhibits us from actually feeling our intuition, connecting with who we are. And then we can't hear our inner voice because we're listening to all the noise outside. So, how would you describe the outer versus inner? And because I know that's a big part of the work that you do too.
Yeah, so when we're looking for outward validation, meaning like, okay, you guys, if I could just get to that financial goal, if I could just get the partner, if I could just get the thing, that's ego. And ego-based creation equals ego-based results. So if you're creating from your ego, you're going to have the ego-based result, which is frustrating. So if you're feeling frustrated with your outer world, your outer results, your life right now, most likely ego has been at play. The good news is, and like when we do ego-based creation, that's we're giving our power away. The good news is that our power, we can take it back whenever we want. We can learn how to create from our heart. And when we create from our heart, our truth, our intuition, we get heart-based results. So this is a good gauge of understanding, like, listen, we're here on planet Earth. Of course, it's beautiful to have goals and to want to be financially free and to want to share your life with a beautiful partner and have a family, whatever that looks like for you. To be able to travel and have these things. There's nothing wrong with that. Those are all beautiful things. The thing I would ask somebody is, where's your come from? Is it being created from your ego because you're like, I need this partner to survive. I need this money to feel good enough. I need this trip to know that like I'm good enough. If it is, that's the hamster wheel. You're going to keep going and keep going. It's never going to be enough, ever. There's another trip, another partner, another bigger ring, a bigger house, a nicer car, 5 more pounds, whatever it is, right? And that's the part of us that we stay out of our body. And then we wake up 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And it's like, what did I just do? I don't even remember my life because I wasn't present. So that's when we're pushing more outward. So when you understand that the inner peace is actually where your freedom is, meaning like if I spend more time going inward and I have a lot of practices, which I know we'll touch on as to how I do that. But if I make that the priority, and what happens when you're inward is like you're no longer so-called searching so much outwardly. You're kind of slowing down, you're going and you're like, oh my gosh. So, like, no matter what, if he says yes to me or not, or she says yes, like, I'm still safe. No matter how much money I make, I'm still safe. I'm still enough. I'm still loved. I'm whole. If you can just take a second and zoom out on what I'm saying right now, like this is truly life changing because the amount of energy as humans that we put into getting the outward results. Again, if you're feeling exhausted, if you've got disease, if you've got illness, if you've got stress, if you've got overwhelm, if you've got burnout, this is most likely why. This is a huge culprit in that because there's so much energy that is going to the outward and we only get so much energy per day. So it's like, where do you want to put your energy? If you slow down and you go inward, you remember like, okay, well, either way, no matter what happens, I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm whole, I'm supported. Then it's like, okay, cool. Like I already have access to what I need. So what do I really want? And now I can actually focus on what I want. And here's the thing, you've probably heard this before, but what you focus on expands. This is universal law. I did not make this up, but what you focus on expands. And so you can choose to focus on I need. When. right? And then you're sort of just like chasing, or what I don't have, what I don't have, look what's happening to me. And again, so you're just creating more of that. Or you can get back in your power, slow down, get into your body, start to like really show up for you, love yourself through practices that I'll share a little bit about. Um, and then from there, it's like, okay, so I'm going to focus on the fact that, like, A, I'm already whole, so I'm good. I love my life. And here's the things I'm already grateful for. This is where so much of the joy comes from because now you know, you can navigate anything. You know, a feeling's going to come, it's inevitable. And you're like, oh, I'll just feel it and we'll move on. And so now I get to focus more on, like, oh, here's my bigger dream for my business. Here's my bigger dream for my relationship. Here's my bigger dream for my friendships. Here's my bigger dream for like what I want to do and how I want to impact the world or the things I want to experience. So I start to focus on that more. And guess what? I get more of that. While simultaneously at the core, I'm just feeling more at peace inside because I'm actually spending time inside.
Mhm.
Those parts of us inside, we get anxious because these parts of us are like, hello, I need you. I need you. You're ignoring me. You're making it about him and her and the outfit and the thing again. I need you. That's why you're anxious. So when you
Mhm.
slow down and you get into your body and then you acknowledge these parts of you, then it calms down. And then once it calms down, you guys, I'm telling you, I was anxious for the majority of my 20s and 30s.
Wow.
And it's painful. It's a lot of running, a lot of resisting, and it was painful. I was constantly grabbing my stomach all the time when I was out because I was always anxious.
Mhm.
And not that I don't ever feel anxiety now, but I use it more of like an intuition of like, hey, pay attention to something, or hey, this isn't working. I need to speak up or whatever. But for the most part, there's just a lot of peace and freedom inside because I've done the work to look at what needed to be looked at. I'm friends with these aspects of myself. So something comes up, because of course it comes up. I'm human. I have trauma. I'm living in a wild world here. Like there's a lot going on in the world here. That's probably not going to change. You know, the world is going to world. People are going to people. We can't control that. We can control how we respond or react and how we show up for ourselves. That's what creates more inner peace and freedom within.
Mhm.
And then now it's like, again, if I already know I'm whole, then it's like, cool, come in and hang out and it's great. Or if it's not a fit, no worries. There'll be another opportunity. So this is flow. Now I'm in my power and now I'm in flow and just everything becomes more fun in this moment. And that's how you live the life of your dreams, is because you're in the moment versus the outward of like, when it happens, then I'll be happy. When it happens, you know, so the difference is pretty stark. But when you have this awareness, the awareness is the power. You can just start to be aware of this. Like I promise this is literally life changing.
Mhm. And that leads to the freedom to not be confined or identified by your emotions or your thoughts, and to just live your life the way that you want to live.
What would
Yes.
that be like?
What would that be like? Ask yourself that. Did we ever ask ourselves that? That's the question, right?
Sometimes as humans, it's like I ask people, I mean, I talk to people all the time about what they want. And it's like, well, I want financial freedom. I want a partner to feel safe.
Mhm.
I want to feel like my body is in good shape and people like me. I want acknowledgement. I want people to validate me, right? And so I get all those things. But again, where's your come from? What if you were free from all of that and you knew you have you no matter what? So again, we can't control people, we can't control the world. You could try. I'm sure a lot of you have been trying, maybe do an inventory of how much time and effort you've spent trying to change somebody, trying to change your circumstance, trying to change the world. I'm not saying don't, you know, make your efforts and all of that stuff, but like at some point you kind of have to look and be like, is this changeable? Is this in my control? If it's not, you know, I know right now there's a big movement with Mel Robbins and the whole thing is let them,
Mhm.
just let them. I mean,
Yes.
it's very powerful. I love that she's doing this because of her reach, because it's so simple. And it's like, yeah, let them stay in your lane, do you, you're good either way. So the freedom from my perspective is has so much more to do with what's going on inside of me versus outwardly. So people can come, they can go, they can do, they can say yes, they can say no, whatever. And of course, I might have a feeling or reaction, but then I show up for myself because I know how to do that. I'm a really good navigator now of my own feelings and my own thoughts. And I come back to like, well, okay, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I get to have an emotion and I process it. But really, ultimately, the freedom is inside because I know I'm whole no matter what. So now I'm not a puppet on anyone else's string. To me, there is nothing that money can buy, a partner can buy, people can buy. Like this is This is a freedom within inside yourself that nobody can take away from you. This can't be taken away. Your house, your money, your partner, your people, we all, die at some point. Like, it's beautiful to have all these things again, but like when you really invest in the relationship with yourself, like that's the only relationship that can never be taken away from you. It's the most important one, and everything else is a reflection from that. So I believe that that's where the true freedom is. And I believe that because I'm a walking example of it. I've been doing this work diligently for over 20 years. I practice everything that I teach every single day. All of my clients know this. Like my friends know this. We go on vacation. Randy's doing her self-care before we go out and do our adventure. It's just what I come with. Like it's a discernment, it's a commitment to me. It makes me better. It makes me happier. It makes me show up as my best self for other people, for my clients, for my friends, partner, whatever that is. And so it's changed my life, and it has helped me to access a level of inner peace and freedom that honestly I didn't even know was possible.
Mhm.
And again, I think that is probably the most powerful thing that any human can access.
Mhm. Randy, you're speaking my language. I'm loving all of this, definitely. And I love that you practice what you preach, right? Like you're a living example that this is the work that needs to be done and that it's ongoing. It's not just a one and done. For self-love and for everything that you're cultivating, it needs to be an ongoing, regular practice so that you can continue to have those resources. And speaking of resources, can you share perhaps an exercise, a tool, a something for someone listening who's like loving all of this, scared of accessing my emotions and my trauma, but how can I start? And I know you mentioned like starting with just being in the present moment and slowing down, but is there maybe an exercise that you could share for someone who wants to start trying?
Yeah, absolutely. I just to touch on what you said too, like it's really important to understand that this work is a lifestyle. And when we accept it as a lifestyle, like the fact that you get up, you brush your teeth, and you have breakfast, and you get dressed, then you go to work, then you stop at a stop sign, like
Mhm.
the integrating this work into it as a lifestyle like that, that it's not going anywhere. That's when I really had the biggest transformations versus like, oh, another feeling, another trauma, another hard moment. It's like, yeah, it's planet Earth.
Yeah, it's gonna
You
come up.
don't have to face this probably for the rest of your life. And when I started to accept that, it became so life changing that now stuff comes up still, but it's just like I look at it and then go back to having fun. I look at it and then go back to having fun. And so again, that's how you live the life of your dreams is by making this a priority, making this a lifestyle. It's like, yeah, you're a human. You're gonna fall. You're gonna fail. Failure is it's inevitable. It's gonna happen. Thing is that it doesn't have to mean anything.
Right.
The failure was like actually a gift because you're learning. My dad used to always tell me you're either winning or you're learning. It's one or the other.
Ooh, I
Right.
love that.
So obviously it's a big mindset shift. So I would say a tool. So the simplest tools I think that are the most important, I touched on them earlier, honestly, is like simply just taking time to journal out how you're feeling or whatever. Like, screw you, Sally. I can't believe you did that to me, Bob. Like, whatever it is, like, get it out of your system. Whatever part of you is taking something personally or can't believe this person did something. People come to me all the time. They're like, Randy, can you believe this happened? And I'm like, I really can. I can because this is planet Earth and things happen, you know. Um, people are gonna people are gonna get in arguments. Flat tires are gonna happen. Like disappointment is gonna happen. Like this is just life and it's okay. It's more about how you respond versus react, right? So the idea of journaling to me, I would say it's like my most powerful tool. And I know not everyone like loves it at first. I didn't love it either. But when you just can say, even for 5 minutes, if I could just say, trust me on this one, and just how am I feeling? What am I feeling? And then get it out. What is true? How am I feeling? And then you might be like, I don't know. I hear this a lot. I don't know. It's like, and then I would say, what if I did know? What if I did know? And then let it. So over time, so what's happening? This is helping you to connect to yourself. Everything we've been talking about here today is about connecting to yourself, connecting to your intuition, connecting to your power, all that stuff. And the only way to do that is you have to get into your body. You have to start asking yourself questions. You have to become your own best friend. So think about a relationship that's really important to you, partner, family member, or best friend. How did you become so close with that person? Most likely you spent time with them. You asked them questions, then you asked them more questions, and then you showed up for them, and then you asked them more questions, and you learned about them. It's the same thing with your relationship with yourself. Sit down, give yourself 5 minutes a morning. How are you feeling? It's like your system's going to be like, I don't know. But then it's like over time, it's like, oh my gosh, she's actually asking me how I'm feeling. She actually cares about me. Like, whew, okay, now we're in business. Now things are moving. And it's like, then what is really true? So this person did this person did that. I took it personal here. They're judging me. Okay, well, what's really true? You should start to practice this. Well, maybe it wasn't personal. Maybe they had something going on. Maybe they're going through something today. Maybe it's not about me. Maybe I am safe, right? So then we're starting slowly to have this conversation. I would say if you are willing to do that five minutes a day, and it's the consistency that wins the game. What happens is you start to crave it. And then I would say, secondly, is any kind of meditation, even if it's 3 minutes. I have a 3 minute meditation that I offer just to get people started. But anything, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to just start to regulate your nervous system to that it's safe to breathe. It's safe to just breathe. It's safe to be in this moment. So those are two really simple tools that I believe, if they're done consistently, can really start to shift and get you, again, just regulated of this idea that like, oh yeah, it's okay for me to be here. It's okay for me to slow down for even if it's 5 minutes. Great. And then that's where it starts.
And that sounds so manageable and doable.
It is. It can all be simple if we let it.
Hmm. That's very true. And then again, that's where the ego or the head tripping, as I like to call, comes in and be like, do you really have time for this? Or like, oh, it's going to be difficult. And you start to create those stories around something that you've never even tried.
Yep. I mean, I literally, I go head to head with people's egos for a living. So I know all the stories. I know exactly how it works. I know all the things that you don't understand, Randy. You don't have time. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Um, but until you make time, you don't get to have change. Until something changes, there's no change. So part of what's going on here is, this is why I mentioned before, it's pretty important to have accountability and support here, whatever that is for you. There's obviously a lot of different options out there. I would say find someone that you resonate with, and get support if you're really serious about this, whatever that looks like for you, to where
Mhm.
you can just be held accountable gently of like, oh yeah, hey, what's going on? So I have a monthly membership. And what we do is we have a portal that has all sorts of resources, all the types of resources we've been talking about: affirmations, journal prompts, meditations, PDFs, guides, things like that. And then we send an email every morning. And it's like, hey, how's it going over there? You breathing? Here's a journal prompt. Here's an affirmation. Here's a mantra, right? And we're checking in. It's like, hey, me again. How's it going? What's your intention today? Are you doing your self-care? It's all gentle, it's all loving, but it's there to help hold you accountable.
Mhm.
And unless you are, the ego's like, nah, we don't got time. And then we black out for 6 more months. And then we're like, oh God, what did I do again? Or something big has to happen for me to remember, oh yeah, this is important. So
Mhm.
to have some sort of accountability, whether that's something like a membership or a group program or a therapist or a coach, if you have the means to invest there, a community of women, whatever that is, or friends, men or women, it doesn't really matter, but like something to keep you like accountable so that you can practice it. Because I'm telling you right now, it's the consistency here that wins the game, not just doing it for 2 weeks and then falling off.
Mhm.
Once you really get that piece, that's when, and again, anything is possible in your life. Anything that you can dream can be possible, which is really beautiful. And again, it just becomes more fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Life
I
gets to be
agree.
fun. It gets to be fun.
Imagine,
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah. I agree. I think that's a great opportunity for you, Randy, to let us know how can we work with you? How can we reach out to you? Because before that, I will agree that you can only do so much on your own. And I know a lot of people, myself included, I got into personal development and I was like, all right, let's buy all the books, as you can see behind me. We'll buy all the books, we'll listen to the podcast, we'll create a podcast. But at one point, you get stuck because you only know what you know. And you need that person who's unbiased, because I can also go to my friends and family, but they're biased because they look out for me and they want to protect me. But having that person externally, a professional who knows what they're doing to guide you and to keep you accountable. I think accountability is huge because, yes, we're so stuck in our patterns and set in our ways that we can definitely lose the momentum of, example, journaling. And I use that because that's what happened to me. Like you start out with the greatest intentions, and then after a week or two, you're like, ah, and you, not even intentionally, but you just kind of like go back to your old ways. So, how do you work with people one-on-one? You mentioned monthly membership, but let us know a little bit more about the work that you do.
Absolutely will. I'll just touch really quick too on what you said. So the ego is very powerful. It can show up with different voices, different scents, different masks. And, it's like, no, this time you don't understand. Like, this is personal to me, or I can't do it, or I'm a victim, or I'm backed in the corner. So the ego is really powerful. And again, you're either creating from your ego or your heart in every moment. So every single moment you're creating. This is actually pretty powerful. And you're either creating from ego, fear, lack, chaos, victim, or love, truth, intuition, victor. So the idea is like until you are very solid in knowing how to discern between if it's ego or your heart, that's my gauge. It's time you need support in some kind of way. And to your point, like it's nice to have friends and family, but this isn't what they do for a living.
Mhm.
If you really want to fly, you want to find somebody that like has experience in understanding this, because the idea here is you want to be creating in your heart in as many moments as possible. That's how you change your life. That's the simplicity of it. So having a container, whatever that is, ooh, that was my ego again. Let me go back to my heart. Ooh, that was my ego again. Let me go back to my heart. The problem, like you said, is the ego is really powerful. So like you get off if you don't have the support of the container, and then it's like I call it an ego blackout. A week goes by, 2 weeks go by, sometimes months go by, and it's like, oh gosh, what have I even been focused on?
Yeah.
Think I've been focused more on what I don't want in my life, which is why I have more of what I don't want in my life. Shoot, I had made an intention to focus more on my heart and what I wanted. And, so that's why I always say, like, to anyone who's looking at going deeper, it's like, oh, maybe I can do it by myself for a little longer, or maybe I'll wait. And I was like, well, what if you started today? What if you just started today? Where would you be in 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, 12 months from now if you started today?
Yeah.
My guess is you would be really growing and evolving and expanding and welcoming more miracles and abundance and magic in your life. So, all of that to say, I have two different ways that people can work with me. I have my monthly membership, I have two levels of it. Like I said, there's an email that comes every morning. There's a lot of beautiful resources in the portal. And then I have two monthly calls that I offer where I also you get support. You get to come together with all the other women in the group and have community and know you're not alone in this. Um, and you get some support from me too, some coaching and accountability. And so that's a really beautiful offer. If anyone's interested in it, I know we can add it to the show notes. It's also in the
Yeah.
link in my bio on Instagram, which everything is Randi Halaway. So that'll be in the show notes as well. I do have a dollar offer for my lowest tier. So if anyone's interested in the membership and wants that dollar offer, just send me a DM and I'll be happy to send you a link. And then anyone who is listening and is like, wow, I'm ready to go all in and wants that next level support, I do offer one-on-one coaching as well. And I would say if that's something you're interested in, then just send me a DM or you can email me, Randi@randihalaway.com. And I'm just happy to chat. I do free complimentary kind of discovery calls with anyone who's interested just to see if it's a fit, explain more about how it works. Um, but it's really transformational work. And it's like the most beautiful blessing that this is what I get to do with people. So
Right. I love that. I love just that you're showing up as yourself and you get to help people be their best selves.
I know it's the
It's
best.
amazing. Yeah. Love.
Yeah.
Thank you, Randy. We've been talking a lot about that connection to self. In the beginning, I mentioned this is an episode about self-love, and we rarely use the word self-love, but I think if you've all been listening and really tuning in, it's all been about self-love without full out saying it, right?
And I'll say this for anyone that's really here with us still and in. We say yes to us, or we say yes to things based on how we feel about ourselves. I'll say that again. We say yes to things based on how we feel about ourselves. So if you're wondering, like, ooh, what's going on here? How do I really feel about myself? I maybe do like a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, 10 being a full body yes. Where am I at with fully loving myself? And be honest. Because the more honest you are, the more, you can put light on what actually needs to be worked on. And then ultimately, I would take a look at your outer results. Who's in your life? How do you feel treated by the people in your life, by the circumstances, by the situations? Do they feel honoring? Do they feel dishonoring? That's going to be a gauge to help you see, like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not fully honoring myself and loving myself the way I thought, because why did I say yes to that? And that's what I really had to do after my second marriage is I had to like kind of take him and move him to the side because I couldn't control what he was or wasn't doing, and that wasn't going to help me. And I had to really look at like, why did I say yes to this? Why did I walk down the aisle? Why did I stay? Why did I choose this? And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
yes, I was better at loving myself than I ever had, but clearly I still had some work to do. Otherwise, there was no way I would have chosen that. And again,
Mhm.
there's no right or wrong, there's no judgment. It's just the awareness is the power because once I can see it, now I can heal it. And so, again, everything's a reflection. So, how I feel about me, how I love me or not, is going to reflect out in every other part of my life. So, again, to me, this is why I'm so passionate about this work. And I know not everybody wants to talk about this, but it's like the most worthy work because this is the hack. This is the hack to the
Yeah,
life of your dreams. Learning how to have a beautiful, loving relationship with yourself.
absolutely. And what a powerful question. Why did I say yes to this? And
Mhm.
get curious, not judgmental, because that's the ego, right? That's the head trip, but curiosity. Why did I say yes to this? Why did I choose this? And turn it back on you? Because it's true, we do like to blame everybody else for what we've chosen, but we need to take responsibility, accountability for our actions.
That's the only way to grow. As long as we're thinking someone did something to us, we're taking it personal, or we're thinking we're a victim, you're blocked.
Hmm.
But the cool thing is you can let that go. We can't control other people, but we control how we respond or react. And I can get back into my power, get back into that victor mentality and say, okay, that doesn't work for me. Maybe it did, but it doesn't anymore. Cool. Let's celebrate that. Instead of getting all hard on myself for why it did then, let's celebrate that it doesn't now.
Hmm.
Again, that's being present versus focusing on the past. Remember, the ego cannot exist in the present moment. So the ego, just to give another couple of gauges here for everybody, the ego is going to keep you in the past. Can you believe what happened to me? Or, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? This is all past tripping or future tripping. So the ego can't exist in the present moment. So if you've been following along this whole time, that just brings us back to the present moment is where you want to be because that's going to connect you to your heart, your truth, your power, and it's going to connect you to the part of you that knows you have access to infinite possibilities. This is what connects you to the life of your dreams because now you're here in this moment. And yeah, there's going to be uncomfortable moments, but they'll pass and then you get beautiful moments. And that's life. But when
Yeah.
you accept that that's life, then it gets again, that's where it gets to be fun and just more joy, love, freedom, happiness, abundance, expansion, magic, miracles. They just show up. You don't even really have to try. And that's what's so beautiful about it.
Uh, Randy, I could talk to you all day about this stuff. I love it. And I love everything that you're doing. You have such a way of articulating and explaining. It's so clear. It's also very, I would say, accessible, the way that you're explaining it. So I love that. Thank you for sharing, because I think a lot of us feel like it's out of reach. But when you explain the gauge of like, how can we just start to decipher how we feel or where we're at, and then the tools. So beautifully said. Thank you so much for everything you do, for being here, for sharing with my audience and everyone. Her contact information is mentioned in the show notes so that you can reach out to her. You can be part of her community, beautiful community. Thank you, Randy.
For having me and for everyone being here. It's such an honor to be a part of your community and share this time with you.